So first off, before I start anything, I just want to say I'm sorry for the terrible audio. The reason I'm even putting this in audio form instead of just writing on the screen is that I know that a lot of people, would much rather listen to something, even if it has bad audio, than look at a screen, given that they're probably going to be doing the dishes or drawing or making art or, game designing or anything. They're playing video games, doing really anything but really looking at the screen. So I meant this more as sort of a background video, not a, looking video. I don't really know how to say it. But yeah, fact is, I'm just going to talk about quick theory I've had bouncing around my head for quite a while. It's been pretty much since the chapter came out, but I've only talked about it on a few Discord servers, a few fucking forums I found around, a few Tumblr groups. And I haven't really seen anyone else talk about it seriously. I've seen some people kind of mention it, I've seen after a while I did see a few videos, but they never really got that. But they only, got recommended to me because I kept on searching, Amalgaknight, to see if anyone else had the same ideas. And they did, but they didn't really explain them that well. So I just wanted to make this to, explain my point, So, I'll just get started, especially with the new Blue Sky post. I mean, new, by the time this video comes out, it's not going to be new, but with the Blue Sky post that Toby Fox posted, with Shom talking about the shadow crystals being determination, pretty much it's just, a theory I just wanted to put out there, but I'm sorry for the bad audio, and I'm sorry for the bad graphics. I'll just put an old video I made in the background, just to give you something to look at, I guess. So what do we know about the night? So first off, the most obvious thing, it's completely amorphous and it's dripping. It's been used as evidence for it being quote unquote sickly for Rudy night, but I don't really agree with that, as Rudy couldn't really pull some of the feats that the night has done. So it's dripping, it's amorphous, it changes shape constantly, and it doesn't just drip a random liquid. It itself, its own body, is dripping the entire time. It's a single color that's constantly melting. We know it moves erratically, even though it plans and it schemes and it laughs at you. It does also act like an animal. It acts wild and feral while you encounter it in the dark world. We know it's extremely powerful. It can hit the swoon move that can completely, minus 999 all of your party members, like Chara does. So it is pretty strong, and it is also pretty much impervious to attacks, or nearly impervious to attacks. When you hit it, it doesn't really ever end the battle, so it just kind of gets bored. And we know that it's partially, at least, made of shadow crystals, as, it spawns the sword out of nowhere, and when Susie chips the shadow crystal off, we see that it's a black shard, it's a shadow crystal. So we know it's also made of determination, given that shadow crystals are the force of will and blah blah blah, or the thing that Shom said in the in the post that Toby Fox made on Blue Sky. So we know that the night is amorphous, it's made of determination, it can fly, it can change forms, it can make fountains. Remember, Queen said fountains took determination to make. It does take elements from multiple monsters, such as Gasta's handholds, Dess's horns, Alfie's arm spikes, Papyrus's body, Papyrus Knight, Undying the Undying's shoulder kind of blade things, Azrael Dreamer's whole shtick. So it has a bunch of Sans' attacks, it has a bunch of different things all molded into one. And it does have elements from Chris's soul, at least it's implied to somehow contain Chris's soul, given we know that the aura farming pose it does at the start is the same as the one that Chris hits. It's got a sort of personal connection to Chris that doesn't really make that much sense. Its dark fountains are exactly the same as the one that Chris makes, which is kind of weird given that the Susie one was completely fucked up. And so we know that it probably has some sort of Chris soul. Everyone basically said that, except for the Cruci the Rudy Knighters. And we know that the night, in general, we know that Dark World designs are kind of palette swaps, maybe clothes swaps at best. So, Susie kind of gains a few spikes on our shoulders and then turns pink, I guess. Chris turns blue. Noelle gets white clothes. It's all kind of superficial stuff. I can't really see how, you know, a fucking goner can just go into the dark, or goner like black and white goner, right? Like with texture and shit, can just go in there and just turn into black and white in random, you know? It just seems kind of weird to me. It would just kind of go against the rules that were already previously stated. So, you know, as I already said, my answer to this is Amalgaknight. You know, it states that Des was somehow probably in the bunker in the event that, you know, Noelle got traumatized by, as we hear in chapter 2, the event that Chris feels super guilty about. All of that basically stemmed from the fact that Des was lost and amalgamated. I don't know whether they really witnessed it, whether they know she's a... Chris probably knows, but whether it's kind of common knowledge and kept secret, although I doubt it, but it's not really important. The fact is that Des is an amalgamate now, and possibly having also absorbed Chris's soul, leaving space for the red soul, you know, the same soul in Undertale, possibly the same soul that ends up powering the core. Maybe it's the one that Noelle created, but that's another tangent. Fact is, the knight, it behaves like an amalgamate. It's pretty much the same thing. So as I said, moves erratically. It's extremely powerful. It's impervious to attacks. It's made partially by determination. It can fly. It can change forms. It can make fountains. It has elements from multiple monsters. It seems to have elements from Chris's soul. The Black Knife theme, the it has the amalgam motif. Amalgam has the Nightmare Knight motif. The girl here would really be lost, unlike, you know, Death Knight just being Death, having walked up, even being a goner somehow. It wouldn't really make her that lost. And finally, we've also just got aesthetic similarities. You know, if we want to say she's got antlers, she's Death. We can also say, well, obviously the whole palette swap thing. The knight, if you literally click negative on it, it turns into an amalgamate, which is much easier than completely messing it up like with Rudy Knight or with an amalgamate. It laughs like an amalgamate in chapter 4 when Susie said, you know, it's over. It goes, and the laugh. It also glitches like the laughs the amalgamates make, although that's also similar to Image Friend and Eram. When hit, it glitches out, and the glitch effect is exactly the same. It's, you know, a horizontal kind of bug out. It's not just a random static effect. The split attack is very similar to the attack that Mirror Reaper hits when it starts biting at the screen. Their swords, I've never seen anyone mention this one. I've never seen, like, I've seen, I think I was like probably one of the first people to make the theory, but I only ever posted on forums. I've seen like a few videos later, like a few views talking about Amalgaknight. Never seen anyone talk about these ones. Well, the Nightmare Knight motif. The fact that the swords that the Roaring Knight uses are shaped like Mirror Reaper. I've been playing too much Ultra Kill. Like Mirror Reaper's Reaper Bird's attack, right? The biting one. It's similar to the split attack, and the body that Reaper Bird has below it, the one made the one that's similar to Endogenes, is shaped very similarly to the sword that it uses, which is also semi-similar to the one that Azrael uses, but a lot less than Reaper Bird. And the fact that it can only communicate via the cell phone. You know, when you look at it, when you're fighting it, it looks like you're fighting a rabid animal, you know, like it acts completely insane. It starts, at the end of the battle, it comes up, it starts screaming its head off, it starts melting, you know. This thing isn't something that can use reason. It's clear in the battle. But then, as soon as it starts using the cell phone, then it's when it starts talking, you know. That's when it starts scheming and plotting and stuff. And I don't believe that it's Carol, by the way. Just a quick one. Why would it be Carol if in the weird route you do actually get dialogue from the cell phone from Carol and it's completely different, you know? And we see that the knight's armor isn't just armor, obviously. We know that the knight's armor is pretty much part of its body with a big flowy style smile. And the breath theme at the very start after they kill Tenor, it's exactly the same as the breathing sound Geiger stirs from Earthbound, which is also whoop-de-doo. It's sampled in the Amalgamate theme. So all in all, I think that the point with the most evidence, it's Death Knight as an amalgamate. I called it amalgamate. I've seen someone call it night amalgam, but fact is, the point is the night is an amalgamate. So everyone on YouTube likes to claim that they've solved the night or solved Golden Freddy or solved Gastro. It's been going on since theories really were at first a thing. But every single answer has some sort of plot hole. But I do think I did get the best one. I think that I've got the most likely one, a lot more likely than the current theories of Rudy Knight and Des Knight being a goner and other things like that. I do think that my one is, the most likely. I'm not going to come out here and start posting no shade towards Jaru. He's a great inspiration, but I'm not going to go out here and, talk about fan fiction while pretending that it's some crazy theory. It's a pretty normal theory, but I do think that it is the right one. It is the direction that Toby Fox is going narratively. It is probably the reason that he put in the amalgamates in the first place, because it doesn't really make sense in the similar way that Toby Fox wrote LV to be love, specifically for Deltarune, love finds its way to the girl. I do think he also kind of conceptualized the amalgamates to make them also work in Deltarune, given that they were both, planned in parallel, although Deltarune, the dream and everything. So yeah, I do think the amalgamate does pretty much quote unquote solve the night. I'm not going to come out here and be dramatic about it, but I do want to kind of put these ideas out there, and who knows, I don't know, it's not going to do well. The audio is terrible, but if it does do well, I'd like to talk about my theories about, Sans being redacted, the original Undertale Sans being redacted, possibly what the hell the soul in the core is doing in there, because we still, have got zero explanations about what the hell the soul is doing in the core. But, a few theories I'd just like to start.